Welcome, Sami al-Ajrami. So happy you're here. You were sitting there in the morning with your morning coffee. And then the first messages came about the attack of Hamas on Israel. Can you take us back to that day, 7th October 23?
Yeah, it was 6:30 in the morning. I was still sleeping. And I woke up for the loud noises of rockets launched toward Israel. And I look out of the balcony and I started asking colleagues also on WhatsApp groups if they know what's going on, because it was so quiet one night before. And we spent a lot of time, hours, until we started to receive news and videos to show what Hamas is doing, and also videos from Israelis who filmed Hamas militants on the roads.
And were you astonished?
It was shocking,
yes,
shocking for everyone, and for me, because it was totally insane to see all these images. And how could Hamas cross the borders to the other side? And
instantly you knew this is going to be different. Retaliation from Israel is going to be very severe. What was the difference now?
It was totally different than previous wars or aggressions that we used to have, because in general there is retaliation and I can't say normal reaction, but this time because Hamas crossed red lines and started with huge hostages collecting, women, children, soldiers. At that moment, I realized it's not going to be the same.
This was a
and
terrible
it's terrible.
attack.
It's terrible to see that.
Yeah.
And the Israelis will misuse that until the end, and it's not going to be easy to remain, because in general, for generations, we rebuild our houses and the Israelis destroy it, but this time it's going to be different.
Yes, and we all know from the news what happened and how severe it was. But you personally experienced it as a journalist, but also as a person, as a father. The bombing started next day. Where did you go?
It was the next 7 days that we spent in the north. There was so many random attacks around us, and also attacks on... The first attack was to the mosque in front of my house. This is by chance or by luck that we did... only my father was injured at that day. And we all survived this attack, despite that whole windows and doors are broken. A lot of shrapnels were inside the house, and with luck, my father was lightly injured. And then we had this instruction to move from the north to the south.
Yes.
And for me, that was shocking at night to hear this, and a lot of people were calling me because they know that I follow news from both sides. Yeah. And they said, are they serious? Are they going to move 1 million people from the north to the south? And I told them it might be more than that. More killing, more destruction, and planning for more evidence.
So you fled with family members to a house you called a chalet. It's a house belonging to your sister, if I'm right. Yes, and there were more family members of your al-Ajrami family. They came and they stayed in another house nearby, and they did not survive.
When we received the instruction to move, the head of my family, which is a big businessman and a friend, he asked for advice, what to do. And I told him, you have to leave. It's serious. You have to leave to the southern area. And he decided to stay in the central area, in a house rented for all his family, his sons. It's an extended family, sons and daughters and their children. And they took a high building and they settled in. The next morning, The house was destroyed, and 14 of them were killed. And I was there in the hospital.
Yeah, you were working there as a journalist.
Yes,
at that moment, and you saw them coming in.
It was the first time I feel very complicated feelings when I uncovered the dead bodies and to see who are they, and they are, all of them, I know them, including this the head of my family and his sons and daughters. It was crazy.
How do you deal with that? You are working, but you are also a family member. How do you deal with that at that moment?
At that moment, it took me so far, and I couldn't imagine that it's going to happen to me. To be working in this kind of situation, it was so difficult. So this is the first time I feel broken from inside, that I'm covering the stories of my family, people who I know. I look their eyes, and I was crying and looking around and felt guilty that I advised someone to move. And from that moment, I decided not to say anything to anyone, just we do it spontaneously because I felt guilty that I told him to move.
I understand.
From the north to the south, and then they faced this situation of killing. It was devastating, frustrating, and breaking.
Yeah, heartbreaking, terrible. You were working as a journalist. There were, I believe, 170 journalists killed during this Gaza war, right?
That's true. When I left Gaza in April 17, there was 184 journalists were killed, among 600 journalists who are officially registered.
Yes.
So 1/3 of the journalists were targeted and killed intentionally, most of them with their families.
Intentionally targeted?
Yes, with their families. And this is the moment that, at the beginning, we thought it's collateral damage, or they happen to be there by a coincidence. But after we started to count more than 100 journalists, and we saw that on TV, that it's clear that this is a journalist, and we are with the vest and the helmet. And then we said, there's something wrong. They are targeting journalists. And for me, every day to bury one of my colleagues, because Gaza is so small, we all know each other.
Yeah.
And every day burying a colleague with his family makes me feel I'm going to be next. The next morning.
So did you put on your vest with press?
Yes.
You did, but it makes you an extra target, maybe.
I remained doing that until I couldn't do it anymore, because also people around me felt scared, felt terrified.
Because you as a journalist might be a target, and you were also a risk for other people.
Yes, and this is the first time in my life that my society is getting away from me as a journalist.
People were avoiding you.
Avoiding, of course, they have the right to do so, because they know that Israel is targeting journalists and not allowing foreign journalists to come in, so they want to kill the story. They want a blackout in Gaza. And I felt threatened, and I felt so sad, because I might cause the death of my family, my daughters, my friends. So it was inside a big struggle, a big fight.
You are also the father of 2 children, 2 daughters. And the father wants to protect his children, especially in a war situation. How hard was that for you?
It was more than hard for me, because my daughter Bisan was injured in 2012 in a war, and she lost her right hand. And it was one of the most turning point in my life and in my career. Yeah. And I had to protect my daughter, because she was traumatized, and this is what she feels every time there is a war or a bombardment, loud noises. She's scared, and I'm the only one who provide security and safety for her when I touch her. So it was very hard for me to work and keep calming my daughters and keep them away from feeling traumatized all the time.
Are they safe now?
They are safe now, yes.
According to UNICEF, over 14,500 children were killed since 7th October 23 in Gaza. Thousands wounded or lost their parents, were traumatized. Like this boy, 11 years old, and he's wearing your press outfit. Who is he?
This is one of the most touching stories that I wrote, because this kid got out. They did not manage to get out of the house at the moment, at the right moment. And the Israelis targeted their house. His father and mother and siblings were still under the rubble. He saw his mother and the father dying, and this kid still have hope that one or two of his brothers and sisters still alive under the rubble, and he wished one day to go back to the same place to dig with his own hands to find his siblings. And he was survived with his sister. And I felt so bad when I started interviewing him and recalling the images that this boy saw and what make him traumatized, very deeply traumatized. And I felt sorry and I felt painful that my job is to dig and bring and open the wounds of people again and again when we write a story. And it stopped me so many times.
I understand that.
To collect testimonies and to talk to people. And I asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a journalist, with this kind of smile. And I understood that he's voiceless and he felt it.
Yes. In your book, you are also angry. Now you're emotional, and that's understandable, and also angry at Israel, but also angry at Hamas. You write, sometimes it feels like Hamas and Israel support each other. And with us, civilians, stuck in the middle. Is that what the situation was like for you? Like you felt as Gazan people you were being used?
In general, I interview a lot of people in Gaza, and I can hear their frustration, just like being taken hostages by both sides, and they must be killed in order to fulfill the dreams of each other. But in general, this war happened with no advice, or even the people have never had any clue or to say, I will go or not, I will accept that or not. They were taken and dropped in this nightmare without being asked.
Yeah.
So at that moment, people started asking, if we have already facing death every day, shouldn't Hamas stop at some point and say enough is enough?
But do Gazan people blame Hamas for the dramatic situation?
They do, and we have a lively society that can discuss so many issues on the table loudly, and there's no doubt that Israel will do anything to destroy our lives, and they do for a long time, 75 years, and the international community kept silent. When it comes to Palestinian rights, the whole international community is deaf and dumb. So yes, we are frustrated, we are angry, and we have no back or situation that we can have our own rights, or at least to feel independent in a way or another. And Hamas was struggling in a way that took us to a violent way, a violent road that might caused the death of and the suffering of more and more people, while the Israelis have no limit to kill Palestinians. They have no limit, and they will misuse any chance to kill Palestinians.
And that's the story, but then in a personal way that you write in this book. De sleutels van het huis in Dutch. Your house is destroyed, right? In Gaza.
Yes.
You took the keys with you, of course. You have them. Are you going back any day?
I decided to stay in Egypt, between Cairo and Gaza. There is a city that is the most close to Gaza, and I felt mentally that I'm doing that because I want to go back. And I don't want the history repeating itself. Our grandparents used to have their own keys of their houses, and they have never got back. The Israelis confiscated their villages, and still, in the West Bank, the same process is done. And at a certain moment in Khan Yunis, in the capital of the south, in Gaza, when the Israelis withdrew, and I saw the destruction and the terrible sights, and the pulling out the roots of Palestinians because intentionally they destroyed historical sites. At that moment, I received images that my house was totally destroyed, and I touch my pocket, and I feel the keys of my house still in there, and it's a satiric moment that I still have these keys, and I don't have my house. And house for Palestinian means a lot. It's a symbol of our existence, of our survival. So this is the first time I feel, oh my God, now I don't have house. And now I don't have the privilege of anyone when you are tired, when you have a trip, and finally you say, oh, finally I'm going home. I don't have the privilege of this to say I'm going home anymore.
No. But will you one day have a house in Gaza, do you think?
I will never forget that. I will do it. Whenever I have a chance to go back, I will rebuild my house.
Okay. I hope you get the chance to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sami al-Ajrami. En hij schreef dus het boek De sleutels van het huis. Samen met Anna Lombardi, Italiaanse journaliste. Dank.
Thank you very much.
Bedankt voor het kijken. En vond je dit een goed gesprek? Vergeet je dan niet te abonneren. Een like of een comment achterlaten kan natuurlijk ook. Oh ja, had je dit al gehoord?
Oligarchs in different countries have more in common than they do with the other citizens of their own country.